all over Catholic media. Every religion is a way to arrive at God. There are different languages to arrive at God, but God is God for all. But my God is more important than your God. Is that true? There is only one God, and each of them has a language to arrive at God. Sikh, Muslim, Hindu, Christian. They are different paths. If you go to the papal encyclical called Mortalium Animos, you can very clearly see that this is a direct contradiction to previous normative papal teaching. Now, some Catholics might be tempted to say, well, this is just, a mistake. You know, he just kind of said something off the cuff. And no. This is in accord with what you saw in the documents of Vatican II. Nostra Aetate says that Hindus also have a flight to God in love in Hinduism. If it had not said in Hinduism, they might be able to get around it and say, well, they just have a conceptual idea of God. But it actually says in the system of in Hinduism, they can achieve this and do this. So really, Francis is speaking in accord with the dogmatic teachings of Vatican II. Contrast this with what the papacy taught in 1302 in Unam Sanctum, that not only to be saved must you be in communion with the Roman See, but as the end of the document says, you must also believe in the temporal authority and power of the Roman bishop to be saved. Cantate Domino of the Council of Florence says that even if you commit martyrdom outside of communion with the Roman See, you are damned. And so this is the ultimate contrast. Think about Urban II. Think about the popes calling crusades. And yet now the pope, even the so-called trad pope, can go pray in the mosque towards Mecca. This is God making it clear to the entire world and to the entire Roman Catholic system that the system is false. The system contradicts itself at a systemic level. It doesn't matter how many documents you pile up from church history, how many council quotes and whatever that you have. Because if the system at a systemic level contradicts, then the way that system works is that system is false. It is falsified. If you look at Vatican I, again, for example, let me pull up Vatican I. We might be tempted, as I watched Tim Gordon's stream, we might be tempted to think, well, maybe it's the end of the world. But yet, when we Control F, if you don't want to read the entire Vatican I section here, I think you should read it, but you'll note that we are told in these documents that the Roman See and the Roman Church will continue to have its structure, its unity, and its clergy and its communion united with Peter until the end of time. There's no great apostasy where there's no longer the Roman See, the Roman bishop, and the Roman unity that it so often proclaims in this document. Again, it's stated in another place that the Lord Jesus Christ put the office of Peter in place until the end of time. Thus, the church could never lose its constituent elements and components focused around the rock of the See of Peter in Rome. So there's no hypothetical, theoretical See of Peter that you can be in communion with that isn't the one over in Rome. And that one over in Rome will continue to have successors until the end of time. There's not going to be 100-year hiatus where there's no popes and then Jesus comes back. No, that's all fiction, and it's all very contrary to not just the teaching of Vatican I that there will be popes until the end of the world, but that the unity and the functionality of the Roman See as the source of unity will also always be there. If the church lost the Roman See in the Roman Catholic position, it would no longer have its constituent components of unity, which are necessary as a sign until the end of the world. It could never lose the four marks. If it loses the Roman See, by Vatican I's definition, it would lose the marks. Therefore, Vatican I is false, and the Roman Catholic system is false. And everything that I've argued against all of these people for years now is vindicated in this obvious, total night and day statement from Pope Francis. And you can have people say, oh, it's mistranslated, and oh, well, that's all cope. Because keep this in mind. The last refuge here for Roman Catholics is to cite this perpetually dead-end position that it doesn't matter what Pope Francis says. What matters is simply the authority that he puts behind the document. In fact, that has nothing to do with whether or not Pope Francis is teaching error or whether or not there's contradictions. Because Pope Francis's statement has, as Vatican I says, the promise that he cannot teach error on faith and morals. So, yes, he might in his private books or private opinions say something wrong. But when he's teaching publicly what the Church of Rome teaches, supposedly, he's protected and guided from teaching error. Why is this? Because Vatican I teaches that the Pope is not just infallible at certain times, but he's also indefectible. The Roman See cannot fall away. So notice, when the trads are coping by saying that it's the end of the world and the Pope is an apostate and Rome has apostatized, they're denying Vatican I's emphatic multiple times claim that the See of Rome cannot defect. They are denying their own church's teaching of the indefectibility.